She had nothing, no home, no food, not even a winter coat thick enough to fight the freezing Denver wind. And yet when she saw a wounded golden retriever trembling under a bridge, she didn't hesitate. She gave him the only warmth she had, her last blanket. In that moment, something shifted not just in the air, but in fate itself. Because sometimes the smallest act of kindness can echo louder than a scream. And for Sam, it became the start of a miracle. Before we begin this unforgettable story, would you mind sharing where you're from in the comments? And if stories of love, loyalty, and second chances move you, please give this video a like and consider subscribing. Denver, Colorado, early January post-sunset. Wind chill, 14 degrees. Snowfall light, but steady. The air sliced through the city like invisible knives, sharp and unforgiving. Under the 15th Street Bridge near the South Platte River, the only warmth came from a threadbare wool blanket wrapped around a small girl's shoulders. Her name was Samantha Sam Taylor, 14 years old, with sunken cheeks and tangled auburn hair matted beneath a knitted gray beanie that had long since lost its shape. She was small for her age, slender, not by genetics but by hunger, with bones that jutted sharply beneath layers of mismatched clothing. A deep scar trailed along the base of her left wrist, a souvenir from a shattered window during one of her many overnight escapes from the group home system. Life hadn't made her bitter, but it had made her quiet, wary of promises, always observing. That night, she huddled beneath the bridge, drawing her knees tightly to her chest, trying to steal whatever heat she could from the cold concrete wall behind her. Her only possession of value was the scratchy army green blanket wrapped around her thin, frayed but hers. The world above bustled with traffic and chatter, but none of it reached where she sat. Down here, the city had no face. Then she heard it a whimper, barely louder than the rustling snow. Her eyes, gray and wide, scanned the darkness. At first, she thought it might have been her imagination, wind and fatigue playing tricks, but the sound came again, softer, almost apologetic. She stood the blanket slipping from her shoulders and crept toward the sound. A few feet away, beneath a rusted stairwell leading up to the bridge, lay a dog, a golden retriever, maybe 3 years old, its once glorious golden coat now matted and graying with grime. It was curled tightly, ribs clearly visible beneath the fur paws tucked under its body for warmth. The dog looked up, its amber eyes dull but pleading. A soft, involuntary whine escaped its muzzle. Sam froze. She had seen stray dogs before. Most were unpredictable, some aggressive. But this one didn't move. It just lay there as broken and tired as she was. She stepped closer, holding her breath. "Hey," she whispered. The dog didn't flinch. It only blinked slowly, as though moving even its eyes hurt. Sam crouched slowly, her breath fogging in the cold air. Her fingers trembled not just from the cold, but from the weight of the choice forming in her chest. That blanket was her shield. Without it, the night would be unbearable. But so would ignoring that dog. With an exhale that felt heavier than any sigh she'd ever known, Sam knelt and gently placed the blanket over the dog's thin body. "There," she murmured. "You need it more than I do." The dog let out a soft exhale, and for the first time inched forward just enough to rest its chin on the edge of her boot. She smiled. High above, on the bridge's pedestrian path, a man adjusted the lens of his camera. Noah Reyes, 28, was tall with a wiry frame and short wind-tousled black hair tucked under a wool beanie. He wore a navy field jacket speckled with snow and a canvas bag full of lenses slung across his shoulder. Noah was a documentary photographer known more online than off, driven by the belief that stories change lives, especially stories that no one wanted to tell. He had come to Denver chasing a personal project to capture the invisible lives of the city's unhoused population during winter. He hadn't expected anything worthwhile that night, Just the usual empty benches, the ghost-like figures pushing carts. But then he saw movement below the bridge. From his angle, he couldn't see her face, only a small figure kneeling before a dog, draping a blanket over its body in the snow. The scene was backlit by the soft glow of the street lamp above the underpass, casting long shadows on the ice. Noah raised his camera, instinctively adjusted the aperture, and snapped 3 shots. Click, click, click. Then he paused. Something about the moment felt heavier than what the lens could hold. He lowered the camera slowly, eyes lingering on the figure crouched beside the golden dog. "I'll find you," he murmured, mostly to himself. But down below, Sam didn't know she had just been captured, framed in a photograph that would travel farther than she ever imagined. She only knew the cold and the warmth beside her. By morning, the sun had not risen so much as it had reluctantly bled light into the overcast sky. Denver remained locked in its deep freeze streets, crusted with last night's snow, and the hum of early commuters blending with the low hiss of buses grinding down icy roads. Beneath the bridge, Samantha Taylor stirred beneath the rusted stairs, the same place where a few hours before she'd given up her last layer of comfort. Next to her, curled in the same blanket she'd given away, the golden furred retriever slept with his head resting on her ankles. He was still thin ribs drawn like ghost lines across his chest, but sleep had softened the edge of his suffering. When Sam nudged him gently, his eyes opened warm, brown, and steady. There was something in them, something that hadn't been there the night before, trust. She sat up, stretching her stiff limbs, and looked at the dog. "You need a name?" she murmured. The dog tilted his head. "Buddy," she said after a pause. "Yeah, you look like a buddy." He didn't object. Later that morning, Sam and Buddy trudged through the slushy sidewalks of downtown. Sam kept her hands stuffed in her coat, which now hung looser around her bony shoulders. Buddy walked beside her close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from his side. Pedestrians passed them without much notice. Some stepped wider around them, others glanced briefly before hurrying past. But Sam didn't mind. She wasn't expecting help. She was just hoping for loose change. A block away from Union Station, she stopped near a bakery where the warmth from the oven often drifted out through the vent, filling the street with the smell of cinnamon and bread. She sat down against the brick wall, pulled her knees to her chest, and looked around. Buddy sat beside her like a sentinel, his eyes watchful but calm. She hadn't sung in a long time. Back when her mother was alive, Sam had sung often off-key renditions of old country songs in the kitchen lullabies when the power got shut off. After her mother passed from a sudden stroke 2 winters ago, the singing had stopped. But something about Buddy's presence sparked that old part of her. Maybe it was the way he listened, had tilted slightly as if he'd heard her before, and was waiting to hear her again. So she closed her eyes and began to sing. The melody was soft tentative at first, a mixture of folk and sorrow, a tune she half remembered, half invented. Her voice wasn't strong, but it was raw like cracked porcelain carrying warmth. Buddy sat still, his ears perked. He didn't bark. He didn't move. He simply watched the people. That's when something remarkable happened. A man in a navy coat slowed as he walked by. His gaze lingered on Sam, then drifted to Buddy. The man hesitated, then reached into his pocket and dropped a few coins onto the ground beside her. Sam blinked, stunned. "Thank you," she said, her voice barely louder than the snowflakes falling around them. A woman in a green wool coat and red gloves, late 50s, with kind crow's feet and a heavy purse, stopped next. She had silver-streaked curls tucked under a beret and an expression like someone who had seen both pain and patience. She crouched down, patting Buddy gently behind the ears. "He's beautiful," the woman said, then looked at Sam. "And so are you in your own way." She left a folded $5 bill in Sam's hand and walked away before Sam could say anything. Within an hour, Sam had more than $8 more than she'd made in a week. Buddy, she realized, wasn't just her companion. He was her protector, her partner, her hope. Across the city, in a tiny apartment above a florist shop on Larimer Street, Noah Reyes sat at his desk, a mug of coffee growing cold beside his laptop. The photo from the night before glowed on the screen in high resolution. The girl was still a shadow, in the shot her face obscured by a hoodie and the streetlight's angle, but the image was powerful, her hands draping a blanket over a helpless dog in the snow. The dog's eyes caught the light, reflecting not just pain but faith. Noah stared at it for the third time that morning. He had taken thousands of photographs of poverty protests, portraits, but this one was different. It haunted him, the fragility, the quiet defiance. It felt more like a prayer than a picture. He zoomed in, trying to find a clue, any detail that might lead him to the girl. A patch on her sleeve, a smudge of color on her backpack, anything. Then he did something he hadn't done in a long time. He printed the photo and pinned it above his desk. His roommate, Jesse Franklin, walked in just as the printer whirred. Jesse was 29, stocky, perpetually in athletic wear, and the type who called every dog buddy and every stranger bro. A barista and a part-time musician. Jesse had a good heart, but little patience for Noah's obsession with bleakness. "You're still on that shot?" Jesse asked, grabbing a protein bar from the shelf. Noah didn't look away. "I don't know why, but I have to find her." Jesse shrugged. "All right, Batman, just don't forget to pay rent." Noah didn't laugh. Instead, he pulled on his coat, slipped his camera bag over his shoulder, and headed out the door. He had a street to walk and a girl to find. Night had draped itself over Denver with a heaviness that muffled sound and pressed frost into bone. The wind had picked up again, whistling through alleys and pushing snow sideways like ghostly fingers sweeping the streets. Samantha Taylor pulled her coat tighter as she walked quickly past closed storefronts and shuttered cafes. Buddy patted beside her ears, flicking at each sudden gust, his golden fur dusted in white. They were heading back to the bridge, the only place that had offered them a semblance of shelter for the past week. Sam's fingers clutched tightly to the inside pocket of her coat, where the day's small earnings, a crumpled $5 bill and some coins, were hidden in an old candy wrapper. She knew not to flash money. Not here, not after dark. Buddy let out a soft huff, his breath clouding in the air as they turned into the alley that led toward the underpass. That's when she heard its footsteps. Behind them. Sam froze. The crunching of snow stopped too. Slowly, she turned her head, and her stomach dropped. Two figures stood at the mouth of the alley, their shapes barely lit by the flickering overhead lamp. One was tall, wiry, with a stained hoodie pulled over messy dreadlocks. The other was shorter, broader, his eyes twitchy, scanning everything with erratic energy. Their clothes were dirty and layered a patchwork of found garments. These weren't just other kids on the street. These were the kind that had already made too many compromises. The tall one stepped forward, hands buried in the pocket of his coat. "Evening, little bird." Sam's throat tightened. "We don't want any trouble." The shorter man let out a dry laugh. "That's the thing, though. Trouble kind of finds you when you walk around jingling like a piggy bank." "We don't have anything," Sam replied, trying to sound stronger than she felt. "Oh, but we saw you," said the tall one, whose name, unknown to Sam, was Derek Stretch Holman, a 23-year-old who once played lead guitar in a local band before addiction, eviction, and rage stripped his life bare. His tone was mocking, but his eyes were cold. "Saw you by the bakery, pretty voiceful pockets." The shorter man, Kyle, was more nervous. He looked no older than 19, jittery eyes flicking to Buddy to the alley exit back to Derek. He'd been on the street less than a year, kicked out by a stepfather who couldn't stand weak men. He wasn't violent by nature, but desperation made people do things they didn't think they would. Buddy stepped forward, growling low in his throat. The fur along his spine rose as he placed himself between Sam and the men tail's stiff posture taut. Derek smirked. "Call off the mutt, sweetheart." Sam didn't answer. She tightened her grip on Buddy's collar. Kyle shifted nervously. "Let's just get it and go stretch." Derek ignored him. Last chance, girl. When Derek lunged, it happened all at once. Buddy launched forward, a blur of gold and fury teeth sinking into Derek's forearm before the man could even finish his step. Derek screamed a guttural, shocked sound and staggered backward, trying to shake the dog off. Buddy held on. Kyle froze, panicked. Sam screamed. Buddy, no, watch out. Derek swung hard fist, connecting with Buddy's side, and the dog yelped, releasing his grip and stumbling to the side. Sam ran to him, throwing herself over his body as Derek staggered, holding his bleeding arm. "You crazy mutt!" he hissed. "You'll pay for that." But before he could step forward again, a third voice cut through the night like a blade. "Back away." A figure emerged from the alley's entrance, moving quickly, decisively. It was Noah Reyes. Still dressed in his navy coat, a scarf now wrapped tight around his neck, he held his camera bag like a weapon, the long strap wound around his hand. His face was stone. Derek hesitated. "Who the hell are you?" Noah didn't blink. "The guy who's calling the cops if you don't back off right now." Derek's eyes flicked from Noah's stance to the bag, then to the phone. Noah pulled from his pocket and began to unlock. Kyle tugged at Derek's sleeve. "Let's go, man. Next time," Derek muttered, clutching his arm as the two disappeared into the dark boots, crunching the snow. Sam was shaking, still crouched over Buddy. Noah approached, slowly crouching beside them. "Are you okay?" he asked, voice low but steady. Sam nodded weakly, not trusting her voice. Noah looked at the dog. "He's hurt." Sam touched Buddy's side gently. "He protected me," she whispered. "He's a good boy," Noah said. "We need to get both of you somewhere warm. There's a 24-hour cafe 2 blocks from here. Let's go." Sam hesitated, her instinct screaming not to trust, not to follow. But then she looked at Buddy, who nuzzled her hand as if to say it's okay. She nodded. Noah walked them slowly toward the Café Maple and Steam, a cozy, narrow place with fogged-up windows, and a barista named Lisa, who had short platinum hair, wide glasses, and the kind of face that wore kindness like armor. She didn't ask questions when Noah came in with a freezing teen and a bleeding dog. She simply nodded and brought over a mug of hot chocolate and a bowl of warm water. Buddy drank first, then Sam. Noah sat across from her. "I saw you 2 nights ago with the blanket." Sam looked up. "I took a picture," he added. "Didn't see your face, but I saw you." Sam didn't know what to say. She just nodded. He leaned in slightly. "You don't have to tell me anything, but I want to help." And for the first time in a long time, Sam didn't feel like running. The scent of roasted beans hung in the warm air of Maple and Steam, curling through the cafe in subtle waves. Outside, snow was falling in thin, persistent threads that blanketed the Denver streets with quiet authority. Inside, tucked into a corner booth beneath a fogged window, Sam sat in silence, her fingers wrapped around a ceramic mug that radiated more heat than she had felt in days. Across from her, Noah Reyes leaned back in his seat, watching her with calm patience. His camera bag sat beside him on the bench, and his scarf was still dusted with snow from their hurried walk. Buddy, now lying between them on the tile floor, was breathing more steadily, a bandage gently wrapped around his side, after Noah had helped clean the shallow cut in the cafe's restroom. Sam was still cautious. Her eyes flicked toward the exit every few minutes, trained by months of instinct to stay alert. She hadn't run, but she hadn't relaxed either. Noah didn't press her. He simply sipped his coffee and waited, letting the silence soften before breaking it. "I saw you that night," he said eventually, "under the bridge. I didn't know who you were, but I knew that moment mattered." Sam looked down, shoulders tensing. "I took a photo," Noah continued. "It's not clear, you can't really see your face, but the way you wrapped that blanket around him, it stuck with me." She was quiet for a long beat, then finally said, "I didn't do it for anyone to see." "I know," Noah said softly. "That's what made it real." Sam glanced up, gray eyes still uncertain. But there was something else there now, too, curiosity. Noah hesitated. "You don't have to tell me anything. I just want to help. And if talking helps, I'm here." Buddy lifted his head slightly as if sensing her hesitation and nudged her knee with his nose. Sam exhaled and rested her free hand on his head. Then she spoke. "My mom died 2 years ago," she said, voice thin but steady. "It was just the two of us. She had a stroke in the middle of the night while we were staying at a shelter." Noah didn't interrupt. "I got sent into the system after that, bounced around. Some houses were okay, most weren't. One of them locked the fridge. Said I was stealing food because I'd eat after midnight." Her jaw clenched, then released. "So I ran. Been on the street since August. I've had to move around a lot. Some nights I found places to hide. Some nights I didn't, then I found him." She looked at Buddy. He was worse off than me. Couldn't walk properly. Shivering so hard I thought he'd die. I didn't have anything. But I had the blanket. Noah gave a slow nod, letting her words sink between them. "Do you have anyone else?" he asked. She shook her head. "Then stay with me," he said. "Just for now. I'm not trying to change your life overnight. But you and Buddy need a roof and a bed and a few days without looking over your shoulder." Sam watched him carefully. "Why? Because someone should?" Noah said, "and if no one else is going to, then it might as well be me." That evening, Noah led them up the stairs to his small apartment above a flower shop on Larimer Street. The place smelled faintly of eucalyptus and lemon cleaner. The walls were cluttered with framed photographs, faces from March's portraits of farmers, a boy laughing with a paper kite. There were books piled in mismatched stacks and a map of Colorado tacked above a desk full of camera gear. It wasn't fancy, but it was warm, safe, real. Sam sat gingerly on the couch looking around like she wasn't sure if she belonged. Buddy hopped up beside her without hesitation and curled into a ball, his tail thumping against a throw pillow. "You hungry?" Noah asked from the kitchen. Sam nodded once. He brought her a bowl of tomato soup with bread and set it in front of her. No questions, no lecture, just warmth. Later, when she had drifted to sleep beneath a thick patchwork quilt, Buddy breathing deeply at her feet, Noah sat at his desk and pulled up the photo again. The one from the bridge, the one that had haunted him. He stared at it for a long time. Then, without overthinking it, he opened his laptop and typed a caption. She had nothing. She gave everything. He posted the image with no tags, no location, no names. Just the moment. Just the truth. By morning, it had been shared over 11,000 times. The snow had lightened, but the cold remained sharp. Morning sunlight filtered through Noah's apartment windows in hazy streaks, casting golden warmth across the floorboards, where Buddy, now bandaged and brushed, lay sprawled out like a golden throw rug come to life. His eyes flickered open when Sam stirred on the couch, stretching beneath the patchwork quilt that no longer felt foreign. She sat up slowly, her hair tangled and cheeks flushed from sleep. For the first time in what felt like forever, she wasn't bracing herself against the cold or listening for footsteps outside her hiding place. She looked toward the kitchen where Noah was already at the stove making something that smelled like cinnamon and toasted oats. "You hungry?" he asked without turning. She hesitated. A little. He smiled without looking. Oatmeal with apples. It's not much, but it's warm. Sam stood and patted over Buddy, following lazily at her feet. As they ate, the knock came 3 soft measured taps. Noah opened the door to reveal a woman in her late 40s, with cropped ash-blonde hair and wire-rimmed glasses that magnified intelligent green eyes. She wore a tailored navy coat, practical boots, and held a leather portfolio under one arm. Her name was Rachel Lindell, and she introduced herself in the tone of someone who'd learned to be kind without being soft. "Mr. Reyes?" she asked. "Yes," Noah replied, eyeing the portfolio. "You're from Companions?" "First," she said. "We're a nonprofit. We focus on transitional care for at-risk youth, especially those with trauma. We partner with animal therapy programs to build mutual recovery models." Sam stiffened behind Noah. Rachel's eyes softened the moment they landed on her. "You must be Sam." Noah stepped aside, letting her in. Rachel didn't move quickly or speak too fast. She sat on the edge of the armchair, hands folded neatly, and addressed Sam as an equal. "First, I want you to know no one is forcing anything. Noah didn't report you. He didn't give us your name, but your photo reached us. The story reached us. And we think we can help." Sam sat across from her, back straight. "We run a private care home just outside the city," Rachel continued. "It's not a group home, not a detention center. No bunk beds, no locked fridges. Just kids like you who've been failed by the system and deserve better." Buddy placed his head on Sam's knee, as if sensing the storm in her chest. "There's more," Rachel added, opening her folder. Inside was a laminated flyer with photos, dogs' teens, green fields, and stables. "We have a canine therapy training program. You'd be paired with a specialist to learn how to care for, train, and bond with therapy dogs. If you stay, we'd want to enroll you." "And Buddy," she nodded to the retriever. "He stays with you. He's part of your healing, not separate from it." Sam looked at the flyer. She didn't say anything. "You don't have to decide now," Rachel said gently. "Just think about it." After she left, the apartment was quiet again. Noah didn't push. He just poured another cup of tea and handed it to her. That night, Sam barely slept. She lay staring at the ceiling, Buddy curled at her feet. Her mind ran through everything every time she'd trusted someone and ended up in another room with rules and walls and silence. But this time, it felt different. It felt like a door, not a trap. By morning, she gave her answer. "I'll go," she told Noah, "if Buddy goes too." He smiled, then it settled. 2 weeks later, Sam stood in the snow just beyond the gates of Cedar Hollow Ranch, a 30-acre care and training center nestled beneath a ridge on Denver's western edge. The main building was a warm, lodge-style home, with big windows and cedar beams, and the scent of hay and pine clung to the cold wind. Emily Crowley, a woman in her 30s with soft brown curls and a denim work shirt, greeted them at the gate. She ran the therapy program, calm, upbeat, and no nonsense. She knelt to greet Buddy first, checking his gait with a trained eye, and nodding in approval. "Good bones," she said. "He's a smart one, and loyal too." Sam was given a room of her own, real furniture, soft sheets, a view of the ridge. The first night she cried without knowing why. Not because she was afraid, but because for the first time in years she felt safe enough to. Buddy was with her every step. In training, he was attentive. In group therapy, he'd sit with his head in her lap. In the barn, he'd chase snowflakes until she laughed herself, breathless. And Noah, he didn't disappear. He visited once a week, always with his camera slung over his shoulder. At first, Sam bristled. She didn't want to become a story. But Noah never pointed the lens unless she nodded. Over months, those photos grew into something more. A collection. a story not just about pain, but about healing. He called it Kindness in the Cold. A gallery opened with the series that fall photos of Sam and Buddy of other children and their canine companions of hands reaching out instead of closing off. One photo became iconic Sam in a navy parka, Buddy beside her Snow falling lightly around them as they walked a path through the woods. Her head was held high, her expression calm. It was titled, simply, Becoming. Now, months later, Sam stood outside Cedar Hollow once more, the wind still sharp but no longer cruel. She wore boots too big and a scarf that smelled like pine and coffee. Buddy trotted beside her strong and golden tail, wagging like he knew they had made it. She looked back only once. The girl under the bridge was gone, the girl walking forward. She was becoming everything that girl never got to dream of. Sometimes the smallest act of kindness, like giving up your only blanket, can become the seed of a miracle. Sam didn't know it at the time, but her selfless gesture was seen not just by a stranger with a camera, but perhaps by something greater. Whether you believe in fate or in divine guidance, there are moments in life that feel touched by the hand of God. This story reminds us that love doesn't require riches, only heart. That healing can come through a loyal friend, even one with 4 legs and a golden coat, and that when the world feels the coldest, God may be preparing a way quietly, faithfully, through people placed in our path for a reason. If you've ever felt forgotten, alone, or broken, may Sam and Buddy's journey remind you that you are never invisible to heaven. Miracles often begin in silence, wrapped in struggle, but they always move toward the light. Please share this story to remind others that hope still walks among us. Leave a comment if this touched your heart. Type Amen if you believe that God places angels, sometimes furry ones, on earth to guide and protect us. Subscribe for more real-life stories of love, courage, and divine grace. And may God bless everyone who watches.